Hi, everybody. Dan Illman and Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Wednesday, February the 15th. Race number 8 at Gulfstream Park. Fillies and mares going 5/8 of a mile on the turf. First level allowance, $25,000 claiming option. Let's take a peek at this field. Please scan the QR code for race of the day access on mobile. Mike, this is a big field, and on paper, it's a pretty evenly matched one. Add in the fact that several of these horses are coming off pretty lengthy layoffs, and it's a bit of a skull buster.
Yeah, it is. I think there's a lot of different ways to go. I think the morning line sort of reflects that. Then I think the morning line favorite might be 4-1, and to me, that's kind of how the race handicapped. I thought a lot of different horses could get involved here.
We'll take a look at the horses that are likely to take money, numbers 9 through 11. There's Cardio Princess, the number 10, the 4-1 morning line favorite, with Arad Ortiz, one of the horses coming off lengthy layoffs. I really think Trip is going to be key in determining the winner of this race. We'll throw up the Timeform US pace projector and see how it might shake out on the front end after the opening quarter mile. The 4 La Chica Lateral has shown speed, but she's shown speed on dirt. Not only is this her turf debut, she hasn't raced in over a year, so who knows what we're going to get from her.
Yeah, of course. Both the 4 and the 7 have shown speed, but neither one of them has ever run on turf, Dan. So it's a real question, going in as to whether they're gonna bring that speed over to turf for the first time. I did think the number 1, Miss Domina, I thought she was gonna show a little speed in here. She didn't do that. Only made 2 starts last year as a 4-year-old and didn't show speed in those races, but had speed the year prior. Saez takes over from the rail. I thought she would go, and I also felt like the 3, Miss Sakamoto, could be the key to this pace, Dan, because she's a really good gate horse, but they tend not to send her. I wonder if they'll try to send her this time.
I think they're going to be close, but we know the Clement barn likes to sometimes get them covered up. She does have the speed to stay close in a blue bar scenario, favoring horses on or near the early lead. Let's start things off with Miss Domina, who scored last time out, but that was all the way back at Saratoga in this race on August the 4th. It's a $50,000 starter allowance, and Manny Franco gave Miss Domina a very nice trip. She tracked in the second flight behind a solid pace, wheels out 3 wide, and despite being a little bit green, she must have changed leads 2-3 times in the stretch. She gets the better of the horse in front of her.
Yeah, nothing wrong with this performance. She did get a really good trip. She's going to wear this leader down at the end and prevail. Nobody really closing behind her, Dan. Her form as a 3-year-old a couple years back, I thought was okay. Didn't think it was great. She ran fine winning that race last time. I do think she's interested in here, especially if Saez gets aggressive.
The plethora of layoffs worries me a little bit. However, she only had an abbreviated campaign last year. The race you saw was one of 2 starts she had in 2022, and now she'll come off the August layoff. She fits on form, and she's a very nice price, 6-1 with Luis Saez aboard. The number 2 is Baby's Dialed In, and Baby's Dialed In making her 3rd start off a fairly lengthy layoff, Mike. Even performance against similar last time out.
Yeah, I just didn't really see the excuse for her there, Dan. She's a little bit cheap, I feel like, for a field like this one. So I wonder if this is, the right spot to take a shot with her. But we'll see. Her overall, her 3 turf races, I guess they're okay. She has that narrow loss from early last year at Tampa, but the horse that beat her there, who was also on the pace with her, was 65-1. I don't know, man. I thought this was a tough spot.
Miss Sakamoto is the number 3 now. She's going to be returning off about a 3-month layoff for Clement. We'll take a look at her most recent race. This is on the Tapeta surface at Gulfstream, going 5/8 of a mile, and she got into the race really early. She was pressing in between horses. She poked ahead in front on the turn, and she flattens out a little bit at the end. Personally, I think she's better on turf. She ran some nice races over the Gulfstream lawn early in 2022.
Yeah, they decided to use her speed in that race on the all-weather. They got her up involved in the pace. She was just no match for the 1-2 finishers late and settled for 3rd. I agree with you that she's probably just a better horse on turf. I actually really liked the stretch run she put into Breaker Maiden last April, Dan. She missed time after that, only 2 starts at the end of last year. I didn't think she ran particularly well in either of those, but I did like her maiden win.
The 4 is La Chica Lateral, the expected pace setter according to Timeform US, but she is making a surface switch. Her Shire Chi-Chu only connects with 4% of turf runners, and scanning the pedigree, I didn't see a lot of turf here. La Chica Lateral hasn't raced in over a year, so it'll be interesting to see what we get. Before she went to the layoff, she showed she likes to win races. 4 for 5 and is the lone 4-time winner in the field.
Yeah, I mean, all those things are true. The figures stack up pretty well too, even though they're dirt races. So I guess we'll see. There's just so much working against her, Dan. So many question marks here. I suppose if she's a big price and you just wanted to take a shot here and think she'll show speed off the layoff and be tough, that's fine with me. But she wasn't a horse that I was that interested in.
I do think the number 5, Join the Dots, has the ability to compete in a race like this. My main concern is her running style. She just doesn't have a lot of early speed. 2 starts back at Aqueduct in a first level allowance race, she was bumped, she was in behind, and the same thing happened in this race at Laurel last time out. As you see here, she's still in behind horses turning for home, but it's a long stretch at Laurel, and now she has a seam. And Mike, she has every chance this last eighth of a mile to run down a gigantic priced horse, and she couldn't do it.
Yeah, that was my problem with her too, Dan. I felt like even though there was some traffic in the upper stretch here, I thought she got clear with time. And to me, she's just not finishing that hard in here. She will get up for second, but she never looked like she was going to win. Her sprint at Aqueduct prior to that, I thought that was only an okay performance as well. I don't know. I mean, I can see her winning this race for sure, but I also felt like she could take money in here, and I wouldn't want too short a price on her.
To me, she's the quintessential 7/8 of a mile turf horse at Belmont. And I wonder if 5/8 is sharp for her, especially in a big field where she's going to have to get a little bit of luck from a trip standpoint. Frozen Solid is up next, and she cut back from a 2-turn 7.5 furlongs to this distance and graduated very nicely last time out. She has upside potential at 15-1 on the morning line. Here's her race, and consider that this race is coming off a substantial layoff. She had prior started in March. She wins nicely, and the runner-up validates the performance when she came back to win with an 82 buyer.
I like this performance, Dan. It's the final margin is less than a length, but I thought she won this race really easily. Always traveled on the cutback on the layoff here, set a good trip, and I just really like the way she finished it. Feels like just taking the next logical step here for Brian Lynch. And I don't think she found a field that is super tough for her, especially considering her tactical speed. There's a lot to like here at a price.
And she's completely unexposed with only 4 starts. The sky is still the limit for her, and she has improved drastically since finding her niche on the turf. Very interesting with some tactical speed as well. Doll Baby, the number 7, is going to try turf for the first time. This one's by the great Tappet. And you look at this pedigree, and it's just an all-world pedigree. Not only is Tappet a super sire, Groupie Doll the Dam won 2 editions of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Sprint, multiple Grade 1 stakes winner, hasn't been a great producer just yet, Mike, and it's not exactly a turfy pedigree.
It's not. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the problems, I guess. Although, I guess some people like to equate turf with the all-weather, and Groupie Doll, for whatever it's worth, did handle an all-weather surface, even though she was a really good dirt horse. I don't know, Dan. I get why they're making this surface switch, because so far this filly hasn't shown that much in her first 3 starts. I'm going to try to shake it up a little bit here. I'll take a wait and see.
The number 8, Sammy's Town, is 20-1 on the morning line. Chantal Sutherland lined up to ride. She's hit the board in her last 2 races, both of them in claiming races over the synthetic, including this race 2 weeks ago at Gulfstream Park, going 5.5 furlongs. And she's going to try to swing into this race widest, and she stays on to run second. The problem is that's been the story of her career. 43 lifetime starts, 12 second place finishes, and in turf and synthetic races, a combined 1 for 27.
Yeah, just hard to make a really strong case for her. As well as she ran last time and earned a representative figure in that race as well. She's already had her chances. She's been basically competing then in open claiming races here, and I feel like this is just going to be a little too tough for her back on turf.
I think the number 9, Designed by Kitten, has a chance in this race, although I do think 9-2 on the morning line might be a little bit light, although she was the beaten favorite in this race, going 5.5 last time out on the synthetic. This was a race where they ran 1-2 all the way around the track. Designed by Kitten was in between horses on the backstretch, eases out, and only finishes in a one-paced fashion in between horses. The 5th place finisher came back to win for 16 on the synth with an 81 buyer speed figure. Now, all of her wins have come on the synth. She has win less on turf, but she's run well on the surface, Mike. I think with her figures, at least, she fits.
There are some near misses, and she does have some figures on the go back. She's also a filly that it's at least worth pointing out, Dan. Early last year, they claimed her for 20. She's 0 for 10 since they claimed her. I know that there are some near misses in there, but that's kind of the story of her life. 18 starts 3 wins 7 seconds. It just feels like she comes up short. And her last 3 turf sprints at Indiana, she was close at the end of those races, but they weren't fast races.
Cardio Princess, the number 10, certainly can win this race. She is, after all, the 4-1 morning line favorite. To me, there are just too many questions to back her at any kind of a short price. She last raced in July. She was then a vet scratch on August the 9th, a vet scratch on October the 1st, and now she's returning off 214 days away from the races. Her last race was good over the summer at Woodbine. This race is at 3/4 of a mile. She broke sharp in this race, but she was taken in hand to sit the pocket behind a gate-to-wire winner. She's in behind horses here. She'll eventually come clear, and she'll come with a run. It was a good performance. The layoff terrifies me.
Yeah, I don't like the layoff and all the other little concerning things since that layoff. You also have to take into account, Dan, for a horse who's the morning line favorite. Listen, she was over behind the winner here for a long way, and then the late surge comes up short. Maybe it's an excuse. I don't know. I felt like she was maybe just second best there in each of her last 2 starts since they brought her back to the turf course. She got wired in both of those races, but ran well both times. She can win. It's up to you what kind of price you want to take on her.
Seemed like a good field last time out at Woodbine. That 4th place horse did come back to win for $30,000 with a 77, but is now graded stakes placed on synth and stakes placed on turf. Fire and Spice completes this field. This is just a tough post position, going 5/8 of a mile on the lawn at Gulfstream Park. 4th last time out on the turf. It was her turf debut. She's done most of her damage on synthetic.
Yeah, I thought she ran okay last time. They did rate her back in the early stages of that race and sort of sat on the outside. Made an okay run through the stretch. I actually felt like there was a point in the upper stretch where I actually felt like she was going to be really dangerous in there. And then she just didn't really finish that hard. But I do think she ran fine in that race. Maybe she'll be a fair price. I wouldn't take the 9-2, but if she drifts off that, I could use her.
She's faced some pretty good competition in both starts off the lengthy layoff, and maybe she's racing herself back into shape. The 3rd place finisher from that last race came back to run second in a first level allowance with an 83 buyer. Before we get to our top picks, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRF videos. Top pick time in this race. I do respect a horse like Cardio Princess in here, Mike, but I just can't take the short price considering the layoff and some other concerns. Frozen Solid is a solid price, a really good price at 15-1. And I do think she has upside.
Yeah, that's mostly why I took her based off of her maiden win last time, Dan. I would to me anyway, I'd put that race up against any of the winning efforts from any of the other horses there. I thought she ran really well in there, and she's still very lightly raced. There could be a good trip coming. To me, more than anything else, you got to kind of wait and see how they bet this race before you jump in. Maybe Frozen Solid will be a good price though.
Miss Sakamoto, the number 3, has the tactical speed to stay close to the pace. She still has some upside. She's never been off the board from 5 lifetime starts. And personally, I think she's better on the turf than on the synthetic where she ran last time out. So I'll go with Miss Sakamoto, Mike's 3rd selection in this race. And Mike will go with a price with the 6 Frozen Solid in a wide open edition of the Wednesday DRF Race of the Day. Good luck.